Okay. Hi. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the first ever Bhagavad Gita in Action podcast. I'm here with my friend Veda Sar, and I'm Radha Priti. And our plan for this podcast is just to read through the Bhagavad Gita and talk about it. And hopefully have some discussions with you all at the end of each episode and see how everything lands and really just make it like relevant and practical in our lives. This great Bhagavad Gita text that that a lot of us have heard a lot about, but maybe haven't spent a lot of time studying. So we just wanted to do something fun, so that we could all study together. What do you think, Veda?
I like this concept of making Bhagavad Gita fun because anything that's fun, I'm in. If it's no fun, then it's hard to get in.
It's fair. I feel the same way, especially at 8 o'clock on a Monday. So it should be.
Look, our own Narada Muni is online.
Who's Nodamuni? Is that somebody's actual name?
Yes, look at him. You see the smile?
I don't.
Good morning,
Namaste.
everybody. I'll
Oh,
speak so I
there he is. I see. How wonderful. Thank you, Nardamuni.
yeah,
Good
thank
to
you for
see you.
hosting.
Okay, so first I wanted to introduce Veda for those of you who maybe don't know him so well or everything that he's about. And we'll just do this on this first episode, so we won't go through this every time. But Veda has been studying Eastern philosophy and the Gita pretty much your whole life, right, Veda?
Give or take. Yes,
Give or
yes.
take. His story is like crazy. He ran away from home when he was 5 years old, kind of on accident. I think you were exploring with your brother, right? And you guys just ended up somewhere you didn't know. And so you kept going, and he ended up at this ashram, him and his brother. And this ashram, the monks at the ashram raised him. And so from such an early age, he had all of this philosophy, these values instilled in him. And the amazing part is he still lives it today, and he dedicates his life to teaching others about what he learned and how it benefited his life. And it's really kind of amazing. All of that is amazing. But my favorite thing about Veda is that he's one of those people who really also lives it. Like he doesn't just teach it, but when you really get to know Veda, and Veda has become one of my closest friends. I mean, we talk, it's like most days, I think we connect on something.
That's
And
amazing.
and
Thank you. Thank you,
and
Radha.
and he also hates it when he gets praised, but he really lives it. I see it in his life and his the way that he talks, the things that he does. So I really aspire to be like that and learn a lot from working with Veda.
This is
So
called the spiritual roast.
no, I just think it's important that everybody, kind of gets orientated on who you are and what you are and what you're about.
Well,
So
Radha is an amazing soul. She's dedicated her life to deeply studying the Vedas, and she's focused on reading Srimad Bhagavatam. She reads like 4 or 5 books at a time. She reads about 6, 7 hours a day, which is not a lot because she doesn't have much going on other than trying to immerse herself deeply into the study of the Vedas. That's her life and soul right now. And she does japa and meditation forever and ever. So she seems like she spends about 8 or 10 hours of her day doing spiritual activities, studying and praying and worshiping her deities and trying to dive deeper. Her background is interesting. Everyone knows she's a nuclear submarine engineer, and which makes her one of those people that have to be extremely careful about every little detail.
that's true.
Because if anything goes wrong, then there's a big consequence. All decisions could have such severe consequences that it could not just destroy her, but so much more on this planet. So that's rather pretty for you. There's so much more to say.
I
Um,
think that was a nice way of saying that I'm like overly perfectionist, which
there's
is
nothing,
true. That
there's
was a
nothing
nice way to
wrong with
say
that.
it. He's figured me out.
It's
Yeah,
good to be a perfectionist because
I could be a little
God
over the
is
top.
perfect. Why can't we try?
Yeah. Thank you, Veda. So yeah, we're excited to be here with you guys today. And with that, let's just get right into it. Is that cool, Veda? Are you ready?
We're reading what? Chapter
Well,
1, verse 1?
we're not reading today. We're not reading today. We're just gonna kind of orientate a little bit on what the Gita is and kind of set the stage a little bit because it doesn't start, it starts at a battlefield. So it's actually part of a larger epic called the Mahabharata, which is a huge epic, and the Bhagavad Gita is like a subsection, like right in the middle of it. And so when it starts, there's some things going on. But before we get into those things, let's maybe talk just like on a high level about the importance of the Bhagavad Gita in Eastern culture and society. Because it's like the Bible over in the East, right? Like everybody knows what it is, everybody studies it. Is that right, Veda?
Yeah, definitely. It's one of the most uh, spoken about, the most read about, most talked about. Even when people have not really studied it, they have heard about it. So every Indian, have you heard the Gita? They're like, yes, yes, yes. My family has a Gita. So they have family Gitas, they have individual Gitas. So it's a very big part of the Indian culture, actually.
And it's really old. It was spoken 5,000 years ago, right? That's what we know.
Before that, millions of years ago, before that,
So eternally, it's an eternal conversation that's been going on.
yes. It's, when people forget that Gita exists, then Gita comes back again and takes rebirth. Because, the reason it is like that is because Gita is a manual for life. When we come into this, when we buy something, you get a manual. What happens if you lose the manual? You have to go and say, hey, can I have a manual to my car again? And you have to write to the company. So something similar happens. Although it was spoken millions of years ago, before 5,000 years ago, and it appears again and again, the manual for life, how to live in this world.
Hmm.
So it's a fascinating book. It's a fascinating manual.
That's beautiful. So let's maybe spend a little bit of time and talk about what is so special about the Gita. We know the Gita shows us how the experience of God can be found in the ordinary actions of everyday life. Um, One of my favorite things about the Gita is I'm from actually a Christian background, and my relationship with God was always one of like awe and reverence. I'd go to church on Sundays, or a couple times a week, and it was just very much like on reverence. I'd pray for things. But the Gita kind of teaches us that we can have a friendship with God. We can have, and it makes it a little bit more intimate. And this is displayed actually by a conversation that happens in the Gita. The whole Gita is a conversation, and the conversation is between Arjuna, who is a warrior, and Krishna, who is that's who we call God. And this is representative of a conversation between the soul and God. So it represents our own journey and our own relationship that we can have with God. And I found this to be so impactful, to know that God doesn't just exist like at church on Sundays, like he could be with you all the time. We can constantly be having a conversation, our own conversation with God.
We are always having a conversation with God, or at least God is always trying to have a conversation with us. And sometimes we are able to hear God speaking, And sometimes we're not able to hear God speaking. And depending on, how attentive we are, then we can actually hear God speak. And so this is the cool part of the Gita, that it is showing you in your day-to-day life that if you read the Gita, it's actually Krishna speaking to you. Because if you cannot hear God speaking to you from within the heart, then the Gita plays the role of that relationship between you and God. And that's the beauty of the Gita that everyone carries in their homes. Even if they don't read them, they just keep them because in case one day they want to talk to God, and they pull out the Gita and they read it.
Mhm. Yeah. So the Gita teaches us, it gives us a lot of guidance just in dealing with our everyday lives, but also through that, we kind of learn this surrender to a higher power, which again, for me was it was like life altering because I was so used to working in this environment. I was a program manager. I was like just doing so many things all at once. And I really believed I was the controller. Like I really believed everything depended on me. And if I did this well, then that was good. And it was going to lead to good things for me. And if I did this bad, it was going to lead to bad things for me. And I was always so full of anxiety, like anxiety for what was going to happen, how I was going to control it. It's like, and that wasn't just work life, but this was like everything. But learning that, we're not the controller and that we have a friend that is really looking out for us at all times, it really changes your mind. It's like, it's psychologically, it's like, oh, you can really kind of breathe easier. And then when you start to lean into it, you start to see how much reciprocation is in that relationship. How much when you let go of things, how much the higher power, how much the divine can really guide things in such a way that is so much better than anything that you could have tried to control yourself or, steered your boat or even really imagined. I think that all the time. I'm like, wow, this is so much better than I could have even imagined. And that's kind of amazing, right?
Yeah, I mean, most people in this world are trying to control something or somehow or someone. And that nature is inherent in all of us. And because of that nature, we are having to struggle because the minute you think you're the controller, material energy shows you that you're not. Something happens in your life that is beyond your control. And every day, those who are aware will notice that the minute we let go of this mood of trying to control anything, then there is a price to pay for it. We have high expectations of ourselves, and other people have high expectations. It's very hard to live up to. And it's interesting because Gita, one of the topics of the Gita is teaching us who is the real controller. And once we understand that we are not in control, and that is actually freedom. And you're talking about surrender, but even just the simple acknowledgement of the fact that we don't control everything. That in itself starts to set you free. And that's one of the greatest gifts that the Gita brings to the world. That experience of freedom that we think is available everywhere and somewhere else outside of ourselves. But it's really, really a journey that's happening inside. So interesting you bring that up of uh, Gita being one of those texts that sets you free because you just realize, okay, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I took this class, this positive intelligence class. I think I told you about this class. That he's like a Harvard graduate. This program, this book was on like the top New York's bestsellers, like top 10. He's like this very, very successful person. And he told this story 3 times in this class. This story about the stallion. Have you heard this story, Veda? It's like a Buddhist story.
You'd have to tell me, then I'll be able to tell you if
Okay,
I've
let me
heard it or
start it.
not.
So it goes like this, like it's this old Chinese fable. And in it this man has this stallion that he like loves, and he takes him and he puts him in some kind of competition, and he gets first place. So he brings the stallion home, and all the people come to him and are like, wow, that's amazing, congratulations, you must be so happy. He's like, it's good or bad, who knows. And the people are kind of like, that's weird, this is obviously a great thing, he just won a prize. So then the stallion runs away, and the stallion comes back with a bunch of wild horses. So then the people come back to him and are like, this is another great thing. Like, you thought you lost him, now he's back. There's more horses. Amazing. He's like, it's good or bad, who knows. Well then the owner's son tries to train one of the wild horses and breaks his leg. So then the people come back and they're like, so sorry, this is really terrible. He's like, good or bad? The owner's like, good or bad? Who knows? They're like, wow, he really doesn't care about his son. So then, like a couple weeks later, the army comes and is like drafting people to go to war, and they don't take him because his leg is broken. By then, the people don't even come to him because they know what his response is going to be. But the point of the story that this speaker is telling, that he told 3 times, and he just like super stressed, is that when we think that we know how things should go, or we think that we know what a certain outcome means, we can very easily get into like a negative mindset, like, oh, this didn't go the way that I wanted it to go, so this is bad. And then we can kind of propagate that negative mindset through future actions in our days or our lives. And it can actually be like a self-fulfilling prophecy of this like negative talk. So his whole point was like, try to stay very open and try to see every like adversity as an opportunity. And as he's telling this, I'm thinking like, oh, if you have a relationship with the divine, like this naturally happens because you just know, like, oh, whatever happens is best for me. Christian, the divine's got my back. He's my friend. He knows what's going on. And so it's like, you don't even have to endeavor. You don't even have to like try to change your mindset. It just is natural because it's a relationship that you've developed, and you inherently know this, and you've experienced it and seen the reciprocation in your life such that it's not even, it's just like second nature. It becomes second nature. Like, oh, yeah, this is just a byproduct of this great relationship that we have. What do you think of that, Veda?
I've heard that story, but a different version of that story. You know how the stories they circulate around the world. The
Yeah.
story that I heard was he broke his finger. Same story. He was trying to ride the horse and broke his finger, and the military didn't take him because he couldn't use his hand properly. So it's interesting, but the principle is what I find even more fascinating, that it really focuses on how when we are zoomed into whatever it is that we're doing, then it's very easy to try and uh, find someone else to be at fault because you're so close to it and it shouldn't be so close. You're like, what is this? And so whenever we are able to pause and zoom out of our lives and whatever that event is, as soon as we're able to zoom out and take a more universal view on it, more cosmic view on it, then we're easily able to see the bigger picture, that there is a divine hand in whatever it is that's happening in our lives. So it's a good thing to always pause. I'm always spending time with Balaram having this discussion in the ashram because he's an incredible engineer that we have in the ashram.
I love
And
Balaram.
yeah, he's hiding somewhere in there. And he has ability to be extremely detailed, very detailed and very methodical. And sometimes that can be frustrating because we are in it. And so when you're in it, it's hard to really see the big picture. So I'm always trying to drag him out from whatever he's in, and then I try to drag him out and say, hey, what about this? What about that? And then we have a nice conversation. So that's something that all of us needs, to actually have a teacher who can, or a friend. In this case, Krishna is helping his friend, Arjuna. Hey, you're seeing these enemies, you're seeing your family members, and you're seeing, everything so close. Let's zoom out a little bit. And so it's a very powerful tool in life to not uh, have to go through a lot of anxiety and pain inside because we're not able to zoom out.
Beautiful point. Thank you, Veda. With that, do we want to get into some of kind of the details of how the Gita starts and what we're up against here?
Yeah, I think it'll be good for all of us to go through this, setting the scene of what's really happening in the Gita.
Okay.
Out of the Gita.
Do you want to start it off for us, Veda?
Yeah. The way I look at it after reading the Gita, for me, it's very personal. The Gita is not some religious text for me. It's very personal because every part of the Gita, even setting the scene of why is Arjuna pulled and sucked into this battle. It's because Arjuna and his 5 brothers are dethroned through immoral and unethical means by his own cousins. These 2 dynasties come about. The Pandavas, which is where Arjuna belongs to, and the Kauravas, which is where his cousins belong to. So these 2 dynasties is where this fight takes place. But when the Pandavas were immorally and unethically dethroned and banished to the forest for over a decade, imagine, you're enticed into something, and the price of you falling for that enticement is you're banished for 12 years. That's pretty hard pay. That one mistake, people make one mistake and they end up in jail for decades. So imagine they were banished for something not so immoral. They just played gambling. It was just because they gambled. They were invited to a gambling match and they gambled. And when you gamble, you have to be ready to win or lose. And they lost because there was gambling means cheating. And they were cheated out of their kingdom. They had to be 12 years banished. And then 1 year, they had to be incognito. And so that's the price they paid. And when they came back and they were supposed to be given back their kingdom, his cousin said, oh, welcome back, but not really welcome because, this kingdom is no longer yours and we can talk about it. So then they started to negotiate. He says, can you please even give us 5 palaces? How about 5 towns? How about 5 villages? And they were negotiating. And finally, they go through these 4 stages: Sabda, Dana, Bheda, and Danda. That means to first approach and discuss, and then negotiate, Dana. And then finally, when the negotiation is not working, then there's war. his cousins would not give them a piece of land that was, this is the insult. He said, we will not give you piece of land that will hold at the tip of a needle. That was an insult to these warriors. So then this war takes place. And Arjuna is now in the middle of the battlefield.
Well, wait, can we make one point there about this war?
Yes,
Can I
yes.
interrupt you? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course, let's do it.
Because I think this is an important point, is that this war, it's not about like religious principles like we would maybe think people are fighting over who's God or how many gods there are. It's not that kind of religious war. It's more it's about dharma, which is like the right way of living, which was interwoven into their like religious background, to their religious living. I mean, everything was kind of like integrated together in society. So this is more, they're fighting more about righteousness and like in what's right. And also the Pandavas were dharmic kings. They were pious kings. They were good leaders. And the Kauravas were just kind of cheats, just after like power. And that was really more of their motive behind ruling. They wanted
Yes.
to be powerful, and the Pandavas wanted to take care of people. They wanted to do the right thing. So it's more about those are kind of the two sides here. I don't know. I know for me, when I first started reading the Gita, I'm like, this is about war and religion, and I just associated it with like what we would maybe think in these times. But it was different. It was really about dharma.
Yeah, because what was rightfully theirs were not given to them. So it's definitely a fight between morality and ethics versus immoral, unethical, and just straight out uh, deception, lies, and cheats. And so that's why these two, when I study this Gita, to me, it's the war that's happening inside of us that we face every day of our lives. Somebody in our life, and sometimes it's the closest people to you. I mean, it's Pandava's cousins. They are the ones that are cheating and deceiving, immorally and unethically usurping their kingdom. And now you have to fight for it. So this is something that I feel we all have this battle inside. There is a moral and ethical side of us. And then there is the mind that causes us and gives us so many different temptations to be immoral and unethical. So this internal battle is what is being played out in the open. And this is what's fascinating to me when Arjuna is seeing all his, can you imagine, his teachers, grandfathers, cousins, uncles, they're all out there to kill him. This is so hard, that you have to kill your own relatives. But then we realize in the discussion between these two friends, Krishna is explaining to Arjuna, you are actually not the doer. And you are not the controller. They have chosen their destiny. And so this is the beautiful part of life, that I find that Gita is such a unique dialogue between two friends that happen on a battlefield. And that battlefield is life. Every day we're battling. We have to battle our mind, and we have to negotiate with our mind, just like the Pandavas, they negotiated with the Kauravas. We're negotiating with our mind, we're having a dialogue, and trying to see how to work the difficulties and the challenges that is posed by the mind in our environment. So for me, it's very personal and it's life. So, well, how do you take it when you first read the Gita?
Well, when I first read it, I was probably more confused than anything. Because just the fact that it's on this battlefield and it's just like so intense. it's hard to really connect like dharma and love and some of these concepts with like the grotesque scene that is happening and about to happen. But I think maybe after I got a little bit more familiar with it, and seeing, Arjuna's just legitimate concern, and this is the very opening scene. This is where we're going to start next time. On Thursday, we'll start here. It opens up, and we're at this battlefield, and Krishna is Arjuna's chariot driver. So Krishna is again the name for God, and he's serving his devotee, which is actually just kind of beautiful in itself, because the message being that, if we really love God, he'll serve us. He wants to serve us. And that's kind of beautiful. But anyway, so he drives a chariot there in the middle of the battlefield, and Arjuna looks around and he's just so bewildered. He's so sad. Like he's getting these physical symptoms in his body, like his hairs are standing on end. He's like trembling. He's like, because he's so distraught, because yeah, he sees these people that he loves, that he grew up with, that he has to fight because he's duty bound as a warrior. And he turns to Krishna and is like, I don't think I can do this. This is insane. Like, I love these people. What is going on? And Krishna just kind of talks him through it, and talks him through, what is the real nature of the soul, and why we're here, and what it actually means to fight this. And Arjuna just like lets himself be, I mean, after some like resistance, Arjuna just like lets himself be like cradled. And it's kind of beautiful how he comes out the other side. But I also love the point that Arjuna is so soft-hearted. He's just so, he feels everything. He loves fully and wholly. And it's really relatable.
Yeah, it's everyone reads the Gita with a different lens, and it's nice that you're seeing that side of it. And when I see Krishna and Arjuna, these two friends on the battlefield, I feel how nice it is to have a friend when you're going through difficulties in life. Everyone has difficulties that they face in life. Arjuna is
Veda, can I say that you're that friend for me? Is that okay?
perfect. I'm happy. I'm happy to hear that. Yes.
I'm happy too.
It's very important that Arjuna is his destiny is going to be determined what happens on this battlefield. And he has his best friend with him. And a best friend is not someone who's going to go to battle for you.
Mm,
And because Krishna doesn't fight.
it's true.
And he had the choice, Arjuna had the choice to pick Krishna or Krishna's army. And that army is considered to be
We didn't tell that
best.
story. Do you want to tell that story in like a couple minutes?
Yeah, let's briefly tell you. Before the war happens, both the parties, they go out and solicit warriors from all over the world to come and fight on their side, like the Axis and Allies. Have you ever played that game, Axis and Allies?
I have not.
It's an old board game. It's really cool. It teaches you, the good guys and the bad guys, and you have to fight and you roll dices. It's a board game.
Huh.
Somehow it snuck into the ashram and we were not allowed to play, but we would sneak out and we would try to read the rules and play that game. So it was one of those board games somehow snuck in. It's a big board game. I don't know how it snuck into in the ashram. So anyway.
That's funny. I love that was like your guys' rebellion, is playing board games.
Absolutely.
That's great.
So both the parties had traveled the world and started soliciting people to go fight on their side, creating allies. And at that time, Duryodhana, the cousin, and Arjuna, they both arrived at the doorstep of Krishna's palace, and they both wanted him to fight on their side. At that time, Krishna mentioned, he gave his 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 uh, his speech on what he is ready to commit to, and the commitment was, you can have me or you can have my army. You cannot have both. And Arjuna said, I want my friend. I want you. And
And he said, I'm not going to fight though. Didn't he say that too?
yeah, he
Like
says,
if you
I
choose
will
me, I'm
not
not going to
fight.
fight.
I will not fight. I will not pick up any weapons. And on the other hand, you have my army, the best trained army in the whole world. And Arjuna is like, doesn't even hesitate. He says, Krishna, I want you. And Duryodhana is looking at Krishna. He says, look at this guy. He's so dumb. You have one guy who doesn't want to fight, who won't even lift a finger, and he chooses Krishna. Obviously, he is doomed. And this is why, to me, it's fascinating that the important thing in life is to have that dear friend who's actually dear to your heart, who actually will never desert you in your good times and bad times. So this is what this whole battlefield to me means, that you gotta have a friend on your side when you're going through difficulties. And a true friend. I mean, we can also get into the semantics of what is a true friend. To me, is someone who never leaves you. No matter what you're going through in life, your happiness, times of happiness, times of sadness, never deserts you. For everybody, it may be someone different. And eventually you'll realize the divine situated in your heart is your true friend. Because wherever you go, even when you're, doing something uh, not so nice, he's still there with you as an observer. And only when a friend reaches out for seeking advice, then only Krishna speaks. Krishna is listening to Arjuna's arguments, and incredible arguments, which we will discuss next week. Incredible arguments, as unbeatable arguments. And then Krishna opens his heart and say, hey, let me tell you what's going on. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? What do you think about this? How about that? And so this whole Gita to me is a dialogue between two friends, one who's confused and needs some help and direction, and another friend who is just providing all these options and choices that one can take in life. So it's very personal like that for me.
Mhm. I love that story. And I love that story too, because it makes you think like how often every day we choose Krishna's army over Krishna. We choose things like material accolades, more fame and fortune, and things that we don't really need, but we think will make us happy over the actual sustenance, over actually what we know will make us happy, which is spiritual truths and connections. And so it's really good for us to even we can see that and we can say that's crazy that he chose Krishna's army over Krishna. But the reality is we all do that every day, right?
Yes, we pick things over people, yes.
Yeah. And so it's a good reminder for us all. It's really nice.
I think
And
everyone can take a moment and reflect on their lives to see, do they have such a friend? That a friend who will always be there with you, and a friend who you choose over everything else in life. And this is what the Bhagavad Gita is all about. Who is our true friend? Someone who cares about the bodies, or someone who genuinely cares about who you are inside? And this principle is the content of our relationship. When we look at each other, if we look at bodies and we look at things and possessions and positions that our relationships are bound by, or the real essence of who that person is. And this is the relationship of friendship that is setting the scene of the Gita, where Krishna picks his friend.
Beautiful
When
point.
Arjuna picks his friend, not Krishna.
I love your point too about how Krishna didn't speak until Arjuna asked him to. And in that verse, like Arjuna's pretty much just like brought to his knees, like, I don't know what to do. I'm so bewildered and confused. And then he says, please instruct me. And then after he says that, Krishna kind of smiles. And it's really sweet because, he's smiling like, okay, let's do this. I'm ready. But it wasn't until that moment that Arjuna completely like exhausted all of his arguments and was still like, nothing makes sense. I don't know what to do. That he reached out and he asked Krishna for help. And then Krishna's response, Krishna's smile. It's so sweet. It's like, again, we can do that. We could do that every day. And it's a good practice,
Everyone has friends like that, Radha. Everyone has friends and they call them up and they just want to talk. And Krishna is like that. He's friends with Arjuna, and Arjuna wants to talk. Krishna is like, yeah, go for it. I'm all ears. And he just listens and listens. He knows that his friend is a little confused right now, but he listens. And it's very important in our friendship circles, we can also check ourselves to see, does he really listen? Yesterday we had this discussion about hearing and listening, which is another topic, but it's really powerful when you have someone who would actually listen to you. And then only open your mouth when your friend is seeking your advice. Not because everyone wants to come and give advice. Like people come and see me sometimes. I remember when I was younger, people see me and they would immediately try to tell me what I should do and shouldn't do. They would ask one question, where are you these days? Oh, I live here. Oh, let me tell you what you should do with your life. Let me tell you about this. Let me tell you about that. And they just want to tell you how to live your life. And it's not the case. Gita does not tell you what you should and shouldn't do. Gita gives you all these incredible options for you to pick what you think is best. That's why I can accept Gita. If Krishna told me what to do, I'll be like, you know what? What do you know?
Oh God, that totally makes sense, Veda.
Yeah, I would
Knowing you,
accept you.
knowing you,
I totally wouldn't accept
knowing you, I could totally see that.
No. Tell me, give me some options, give me some options. Let's work through this, I
That's
think our
beautiful.
discussion time is up.
Yeah, so let's just wrap this up. I think the point here is that we all get to this point where we come to these forks in the road in life, or just confusing times, and we're brought to our knees and brought to the question, the meaning of life, opening ourselves up to hear. And the Gita helps us with this. It provides answers, helping us to make the radical shift that's needed. But in order to do this, there is a qualification for us as listeners or as readers, is that we need to put aside our certainty and our pride. And we really need to kind of access the spirit of humility that allows us to ask for help, though it's not always easy. And in this spirit of humility, our hearts can start opening, right? What are you going to say? What do you got?
I don't know if Arjuna was really showing much humility at that point. I think he was just lost. He was just
There's
like,
There's points though that he does. He goes
Yeah,
through like, but he absolutely does when he comes to his knees and is like, please instruct me. I mean, like, how much more humble can you get than I'm so bewildered, lost, and confused. Please instruct me.
that's true. That's true. I would take that. Yes, definitely. There is that humility to seek advice because many of us, when we have difficulties, we don't have that humility to seek advice and ask someone. We're not ready to be vulnerable. We're not ready to uh, ask for advice. So yes, there's
But
definitely
but I
this.
agree. Before that, he's 100% fighting back. But as soon as he says that, that's when Krishna enters into the scene, like really speaks. And that's, for all of us, like we come here, come with, a sense of like, all right, what can I learn today? How can I improve myself? What do I need to change in my mental thinking or my patterns to show up better? And we should all come to that. You either on a large scale or just even a small scale daily. And in that way, we can open ourselves up to receive this knowledge. Right, Veda?
Yes, yes, yes. It's powerful to come to that stage of at least realizing that there's someone may have a different perspective and might be able to shed light to whatever it is that we're going through in life.
Beautiful. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing your insights. Such a beautiful way to start the week, the morning, the day.
Absolutely. I think it'll be good when we finally get started on Thursday. We just start reading and discussing and dissecting the beautiful points that Arjuna brings up.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. But with that, does any of our live listeners here have any questions or want to contribute anything? We'd love to hear from you all. Um, if anybody wants to participate.
Any giveaways, takeaways, or questions?
Ooh,
Yeah.
that would be good. Brownie points for takeaways.
Yes, Ramananda Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you very much. I love very much the discussion, and especially when it turns to this point of friendship. I think that's touching me deeply in the sense that that kind of friendship that Arjuna and, like I was just reading in the Mahabharata about Yudhishthir, also deeply satisfying friendship that we today, I think it's very hard to find. You
Mm.
know, that's the, like you start, it's going to be fun. And for me, that's the fun. We have two friends here. It ended up very much on that friendship, how deep that friendship is. And that's a very amazing way the Gita starts. It's all about these two friends, because I was just thinking maybe the word religion fell too quickly a little bit, because I don't even know if the religion as we know today was current at that time, if it was similar concept, or, you know, like you said, Radha, it's all about Dharma, but really it's these two friends it's between these two friends, the whole Gita. So indeed, that's what's touching me very much. And that's the fun, I think, that these two friends find each other in this heat of a build-up scene, and which is now going to escalate, and amazing.
So next time you go anywhere, just take a friend with you, Ramananda Prabhu.
I wait until you come, Vida.
Yes. Ramananda Prabhu always takes me on these beautiful walks and bike rides all around Belgium. He's my dear friend, and I
No, it's
thoroughly
top fun.
enjoy his company.
It's top fun to walk with Freda, because anyone he meets, even the people who he doesn't speak their language, immediately it's like they're his best friends. They feel like Veda is their best friend. I've never seen such a thing. It's really so close to the heart. It's incredible. So that's why it's indeed fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramananda Prabhu.
Anybody else have anything they'd like to share? Questions, takeaways?
don't be afraid to challenge anything we're saying, because that's the beauty of it. Krishna is challenging Arjuna. You think this? What about this? And that's the fun part. Yes, Brittany had her hand up.
Right. Well, one thing that struck me listening to this time is that Duryodhana had already pretty much sealed his fate, right? When he came to Krishna asking for help, there was already going to be a battle. But Krishna doesn't say no to Duryodhana. It's even though he knew his choices and what he had made, he still, up until the very last moment, was giving him the option of still taking his help. And I just think that's really beautiful. It doesn't matter who you are when you come to him in that way. Now you have a choice. Of course, Duryodhana didn't choose the Krishna's friendship and option. But anyways, I thought that struck me as really beautiful.
That everyone has a choice.
Well,
Yeah.
and that
That
Krishna
anyone
loves.
can come to approach Krishna. He didn't say no to Duryodhana, even though he knew that he was going to be fighting in this battle on the so-called side of Adharma.
Yes.
So he doesn't not welcome him into his home. He doesn't treat him poorly in that moment. He's still there with him. And I just think that's beautiful.
Yeah, very true. Very nice. Very nice. Thank you, Brittany.
Anybody else? Feel free to just take. Oh, Sean. Great. Sean, you want to speak?
Yeah, you mentioned true friends. So would you consider God as a true friend? And perhaps if, with truth, is God not the only real true friend who will always be with you from beginning to end, always with omnipresent,
A very deep statement. There is a beautiful poetry written by this great saint named Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And he writes this poetry, and in that poetry, one of the lines he's saying that God is reaching out to us and saying loudly, my dear friend, who in the world is dear to you than me? There's no one who's a dear friend to you than me. Ami bina bandhu aar ke ache tomar. That I am actually your true friend. Please accept my friendship. Imagine that. And I was like, you almost brings to tears when God himself is saying, please accept the friendship that I'm offering you. So yeah, I like that, Sean. You want to add anything, Radha?
No, it's beautiful. I love that you brought up Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Veda loves Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And whenever you bring him up, it always makes me smile. But I see the similarities in you two more and more too when I start studying him and his personality and his mood of surrender.
I'm getting totally psychoanalyzed every day.
I do. I psychoanalyze Veda like crazy. Yep, that's my job. We got a
Justin has
couple
a
more.
question. Justin.
We have monk mode. We have Himalata and Justin.
Justin
Okay, we're
has a
still going.
question.
All
Yeah.
right, let's hear it.
Hey there, I had this something that's been a realization for me, that I keep having this realization and then forgetting, and then having and forgetting it all the time. I just had it again, and I want to cement it in there. That notion that it's not like the big thing, like we think the battles in our life, like we think of the dramatic moments, the fight with a thing, but every moment is that battlefield. And on one level, it could seem like, wow, that's a recipe for a serious case of generalized anxiety disorder. But that's the beautiful thing of the Gita, is to reframe how I engage in that war. What I'm really fighting against is that part of me that thinks that I'm in control of the universe, that I'm like literally burning my neural circuits, trying to play chess with the universe, trying to calculate every move. And I'm so exhausted that I can't even do anything, can't even face anything. But to know that Krishna's taking care of it, I just have to show up and surrender. And if I listen, and if I like you say, you have to actually, Krishna is silent until Arjuna actually asks for advice. And I sort of interpret that as is making my mind quiet and then listening to what my heart is saying, what the next right thing in this moment is. All that signal is always there. It's just that my mind gets so loud, it gets so noisy that I can't hear it, and I get confused. Like, where is this direction? But when I get quiet and it's there, and it could be really subtle. It could be just, I'm just holding my posture is a little weird. I'm holding some unnecessary tension or something like, that's something that's really bothering me. But every moment, if I look within, I can see something that can fall away. And it's just so much more of a beautiful and juicy way to go through life. So thank you for re-energizing that and bringing that to me. I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yes, you got a friend in the world.
Thank you for that. And I just want to add, I love that you use this analogy of playing chess because I'm totally into this, like the chess of life. And I love to play it in life, like not the real game, but the actual, like I love to be constantly thinking about every move. But I think the key is just to not get attached to the outcome. Like if you move your piece and it's not at all what you thought or you miscalculate, it's like, oh, all right, Krishna's plan. Like you still do your best, but then you're like, okay, we'll see what happens there. Maybe that was, the way. And so in that way, you don't have the stress and the anxiety, and it becomes more fun. It's like, all right, let's just try our best and see how it falls.
It's funny because I like to play chess. It's a sport that I thoroughly enjoy and I love it. And I get so into it and I want to win. That's the only place I want to control my destiny is on the chessboard.
I don't know. I've played
But
pickleball with you before, and I feel like you also get a little bit competitive there, Veda.
But in real life, I'm like, okay, someone else is in control. My life is easier. It's so much fun when you're not in control.
Yeah,
And
and it actually psychologically it opens your mind up to be able to focus more on what you're actually doing. And like this is like real cognitive like trick, that if you're not focused on those results, you can be more present. And in that way, things can maybe whatever you're putting your effort to may be more fruitful because you can show up more.
well,
We had a question. We had a question on the board real quick about from Himalata, who chose first between Krishna and Krishna's army? Was it Duryodhana or Arjuna? I always heard that Arjuna came to Krishna's feet like out of humility, and when Krishna he was lying on a bed, and when he opened his eyes, he saw Krishna first, and he asked Krishna, or Krishna saw Arjuna first, and he asked Arjuna. Is that what you know to be correct, Veda?
yes. Actually, Duryodhana came first.
He arrived at the bedside
He
first, right?
arrived on the bedside first, but there was a throne right next to where his head was and so he sat on that throne because he's a prince, so he sat on the throne, but Krishna, he sat on the bed at Krishna's feet.
No, Arjuna. I keep mixing it up too. Yeah.
Arjuna sat at Krishna's feet. And the rule is whoever you see first, they get the first pick. And the whole time Krishna was explaining that you get to pick me or the army, and he was describing his army, Duryodhana was cringing. He was kept saying, Krishna, I came first. Krishna, but I saw I saw Arjuna first. But anyway, this is what it is. I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to lift any weapons. And Duryodhana is literally praying at the edge of his seat, please pick Krishna and do not pick his army because I want the army and you can have this guy. And that's what Duryodhana was hoping. And he was so happy. He was more happy than Arjuna that Arjuna actually picked Krishna. So yeah, it's that's the story in the Mahabharata.
Nice. Good reflection for us all for today. Do we choose Krishna or Krishna's army every day? What are we choosing?
Do we pick your best friend, or do you pick something else?
Selfishness, ego, controller mentality. Yeah, beautiful.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you all who joined us. This was so much fun. We'll be back on Thursday, same time, same link, same time, and hope to see you all again. We'll start on Thursday. So please
And
join us.
it'll be good if you have questions to present the questions in the group or wherever Radha is posting it, then we will be happy to spend some time discussing your questions. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, beautiful souls.
Have a wonderful day.
Have a wonderful week. Namaste, everyone.
Namaste.